Hey, today I'm going to talk to you about my family. And I know that sounds real sentimental and mushy, but that's just because you don't know my family. No, not this family. This family. You see, I'm half Lebanese, which, if you've ever seen My Big Fat Greek Wedding, you've seen my family in action. I actually went to go see that movie with 42 cousins. We took up 3 rows of the theater. Anyway, so Great Graham was our matriarch, and she died at the ripe old age of 93. But when she died, we didn't know what to do because, like with all families, everything is about the food. And Graham somehow made all the food for all 40 of us by herself and hosted everything at her house. Now, Thanksgiving is probably the most important meal of the year for us. It's like a really big deal. We have weekly meetings for about 5 weeks beforehand so that we know who's making what, how much they're making, and a head count. Because for some reason, we always have 40 to 50 people, but we still have to have a head count to make sure that we have the right number of people or to make sure that we have enough food for that many people. And also, with Thanksgiving, we have to always have twice as much food as people. So Thanksgiving is like a 3-day thing for us. We have the day of Thanksgiving, where we go and stuff our faces, and then the day after Thanksgiving, where half of us go back and continue to stuff our faces, and then the next day, where we do the same thing, and it never ends, because it's all about the food, and we have to have tons of it, because there's a lot of us, and that's how we roll in the Middle East. So there are some dishes that we have for Thanksgiving that are special, and we only ever have them for Thanksgiving, like the cinnamon rice and the noodle gravy and things like that. And if you are allowed to make it, then it is a rite of passage because you're not just making food for everyone and you're not just making a Lebanese dish. You're making the special Thanksgiving dish that we only have once a year. Last year, my mom was allowed to make the noodle gravy. And that was a big deal because she married into the family. So she's not Lebanese by blood, but she was allowed to make the noodle gravy. And so that was like the most exciting thing of the year. It was kind of cool. We were all very excited, of course. Now, for the first few years, just to show how important the food is, for the first few years after Graham died, we kind of rotated houses between the family. But everywhere we went, there was a framed picture of the dinner table. Not the family. No, not a framed picture of us. It was of the food. Every food dish had a home and it had neighbors, and you could not change that. So we had a framed picture, small framed picture of the food so that whoever hosted Thanksgiving, we could make sure that the food was in the right order because by golly, the noodle gravy has to go by the potatoes. If anything changes, then doom on you. Because that's how set in tradition we are. You know, same thing every year, and you don't mess with tradition. For example, one year for Christmas, we decided to change the menu. I know, it's scandalous. And we usually have a mix between Arabic food and American food for all these holidays. But if it's Lebanese food, then everyone knows how much to make and proportions, and everyone has what they're best at, and they bring it, and it's all good. So one year, we decided to have Mexican food. And my uncle, who is the oldest and the wisest of the cousins, shook his head and he was like, "You're going to regret this. This is going to be a bad idea." And of course, nobody listened to him, but he was right. He was right. So since none of us know how to do proportions for any food other than Lebanese, we ended up with like 20 giant trays of tamales. And we had enough tamales to feed, the whole nation because we don't know how to do proportions and all we know is, well, there's 40 of us, so let's just make, enough for each person to have 5. And then like 3 people brought tamales and several people brought enchiladas. So after Christmas, we were all like, that was a bad idea. We should have listened to the oldest and the wisest. But no, we did not. So now we have tamales and enchiladas to last us for about a year now. So that was not good. And needless to say, it has never happened since, and will never happen again, because one does not change tradition.